Let's move you to this conversation now. The South African Police Service is observing this year's 16 Days of Activism of No Violence Against Women and Children by highlighting the work of its men and women in blue involved in investigating and arresting abusers of women, children and vulnerable groups. Lieutenant Colonel Nondumiso Mabaso, who's based at the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Head Office Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit, has been hailed for her incredible role as a forensic social worker, instrumental in helping ensure successful convictions of about 24 rapists in KwaZulu-Natal. Colonel Mabaso has been hailed for her commitment and resolute to eradicating gender-based violence in society. Let's now touch base with Lieutenant Colonel Nondumiso Mabaso, who joins us now via our video link. Thank you so much for your time, Colonel. First of all, let's just get your reaction to all the accolades that you've received thus far. I know that many people also say that this job that you do is quite a thankless job.
Good evening and good evening to the community. Actually, the job that I do, it's not a thankless job. It's a very important job when it comes to fighting gender-based violence and also making sure that the voice of those who cannot speak for themselves are heard, especially in the court of law. So I was very much honored when I was nominated as one of those who have been working hard in terms of fighting against gender-based violence.
And Colonel, I also want us to actually just to zone back in terms of how we deal with our victims in our police stations. I know a lot has been said on that front, that we need more police officers that are more sensitive to the plight of GBV victims. Let's talk about at your police station that you operate from and how you deal with such sensitive matters of GBV, especially when it comes to victims coming to report, because some even say they suffer secondary victimization when they get to the police station.
Before we go into explaining as to or answering your question, perhaps we should focus on to what is forensic social work, what is it that I do, or how do we as forensic social workers assist victim of sexual abuse and also child abuse and also all the abuse against children. So forensic social work is based on the investigation, forensic interviewing in the investigation of the crime that has been reported to SAPS. Because of our skills as forensic social workers, we're employed by SAPS to be able to assess children and also to assist children in terms of looking at their developmental stages as to when they go to court, they will be able to voice their what has happened.
And thank you so much for that breakdown, Colonel. Let's get into how these victims also get assisted, particularly when they come to the police station and report these GBV cases.
Okay, when they go to the police station, in fact, they go via Tutuzela Care Center. We've got our stations at Tutuzela Care Center, whereby there is a trained police official who is stationed there, who is able to assist in terms of obtaining statements, interviewing children. And also, it does not end there. It goes to where the case is being referred to the detective, as well as when there are some challenges in terms of maybe taking statements, because we are talking about children from as young as 3 years old up until the age of 12 years, up until the age of 18 years old. Then that is where our role comes in as forensic social workers, is to utilize forensic interviewing protocols, utilize forensic interviewing techniques so that we can be able to collect information from the child and also present that information from court in a form of a report, and also recommend as to how to, or maybe educate the court in terms of, because we remember that each and every person has its own individuality. So, and also the way that we are raised, communities are different, they differ. We can call, there are different names that we use as communities. So in particular to a child that is being assessed, we need to educate the court as to this particular child. When she refers to this maybe part of the body, she refers to it in this manner. So in terms of also the cognitive development of the child, because remember, we are specialists in this. We need to we look at the cognitive development of the child as to this child function at this particular stage, because it won't be fruitful to interview a child who is 7 years old or interview the child who is maybe 6 years old or 3 years old as if you are interviewing an adult. So there is a manner in which we need to, when we interview children, we need to focus on the particular techniques that is appropriate for that individual child.
And Colonel, during this time, there's also a call and a need, and that need is for all of us to fight against gender-based violence. And it starts with me and you as well. And some even say that these are conversations they feel like are played and paused around this time when we observe 16 days, and then we pick them up the next year again. What is it going to take for all of us to actually make this an effort that we all partake in 365 days a year?
I think to fight against gender-based violence, it should be every day a thing. We should always teach our children as to how to treat each other, because as much as we say it's against a child, a girl child, but also the boy child. There are so many boy children that are being victimized. So on both sides, on both genders, we need to educate our communities as to how to go about in supporting each other, in protecting each other. And also we need to make sure that when a child is reporting an incident of gender-based violence, because sometimes we find that a parent will not trust what the child is saying, maybe especially when it's the family member. They will tend to not support the child. As a result, the child will maybe go to the system and report the incident, and they will find that later the child will recant and say it did not happen because she or he is not being supported by the parent at home. And also the stigma within the communities. We need to deal away with the stigma in the communities we need to educate the communities as to try by all means to allow everyone, not only children, all people who are who are suffering from gender-based violence, as to we protect them, we listen to them, because they've got the voice to relate to as to this is what has happened to them.
Lieutenant Colonel Nondumiso Mabaso, based at the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Head Office for Family Violence. Thank you very much for your time and insights on the program this evening.